morning, Rev Walter here. I am so excited, guys. It is another Monday, and you know, when it's Monday, we are always here to do our thing. And today is no different. I am here once again on this topic here. Very exciting topic. I had a great week, by the way. I'll talk about it in a moment. But remember, we here every single day, Monday to Friday. Mondays is myself with this particular segment. Tuesday, Dr. Sunshine Sylvia with her segment on Mindset Change Program. Wednesday, Mompreneur with Sampa Mwansa Chilambwe. Thursday, Dr. Nelly with her show, Prosperity for Your Soul. And on Friday, we have Health Tips with our new image partners. So today I want to jump straight into what I have to offer because it's quite deep. First and foremost, this last week was amazing. This last week, I must say, guys, there was so much that happened in terms of us giving data and information and just going through the webinar that we went through. I was running a webinar called Out of Ruins, a neuropathy 5-day webinar. And for me, that was exciting because it really, allowed me to do what I normally do. Like I've said, one of the things that I've been doing all along these last couple of, almost a year now, but about maybe 9 months, I run neurotherapy or neuropsychology therapy. And that part of that work is helping people deal with trauma, help people deal with, in fact, trauma is at the center of it because it's about relationships. It was born out of a need in marital counseling. Now, I don't do counseling, and the reason is simple. I feel, even though these terminologies are interchangeable, but there's much depth to it, because in counseling, you're essentially dealing with the after effect. You're dealing with the exhibited behavior or the exhibited issue that nobody's happy with. So you're trying to kind of correct that, reconciling behavior to desired outcomes and things of that nature. That's what counseling is. For me, I go deeper than that because counseling, like I keep saying, deals with symptoms. It deals with the exhibited undesirable behavior and traits. With therapy, we go to the root. We look for where it all comes from. And you'll be very, very surprised to learn that most of the undesirable behavior you see among a lot of people in any situation, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's in leadership and governance, whether it's in marriage, especially marriage, and just any of people, what you will learn is that a lot of people come with hang-ups, with issues from their past. And those issues form what we call frames. And these frames hold what we call belief systems. And those belief systems create limits to what one can do and achieve. And these, in turn, have an impact on behavior and outcomes. Outcomes are results. So if you are sitting listening to me this morning, there are not many of you, but many will catch us on recording. If you're listening and you realize that there are fundamental flaws around the results that you're seeing in your life, then I can tell you that that is coming from somewhere within yourself. In fact, in the Hermetic laws of life, what we call spiritual laws, there is a law called the law of correspondence. As is on the inside, so is on the outside. If you see a lot of chaos in the life of an individual, a lot of discord in the relationships, a lot of mental anguish, a lot of financial turmoil and things of that nature, career indecisiveness, when you see such things, these are what we call the fruit. And they don't just come from without. And a lot of people, especially in religious circles, attribute such chaos to an outside agent, normally the devil. I'm here to tell you the devil, and I'm not kidding, the devil does like 3%. The 97% comes from ourselves. Why? Because we are shaped and formed by what goes on in our life, especially our past. And so these things from the past, they get buried deep within the recesses of our hearts, which is another term for the subconscious mind. And then they surface every time to bring disruption to any progress. So the exhibited undesirable behaviors and of course the subsequent results are actually all coming from within an individual. So that's why we say that as is on the outside, so is on the inside. The law of correspondence, what you see on the outside is actually coming from the inside, and what is on the inside will manifest on the outside. So the chaos exhibited for most people is an internal programming issue. So where does this come from? We've learned, of course, that this comes from deep and subtle trauma. You will be amazed how many people, because of the messed up environments we come from, carry all manner of hurts and trauma. So when people hear the word trauma, they immediately think of some horrific thing like being raped or being sexually abused as a child or being violently beaten or things. No, trauma is anything that causes immense discomfort of mind and body to an individual, immense discomfort and pain. So anything from just being bullied, being made fun of, having to watch parents go through a divorce, and especially if it's a very, 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 acrimonious divorce where there's insults and children being taken back and forth, being raised by people that don't love you and are doing bad things to you or speaking bad things about you, or rejection or abandonment. These things, when they happen in the past of a child, they have an impact, a powerful impact in the psyche. The word psyche is from the Greek suke, and that word suke in the Greek is translated nephesh in the Hebrew, which is the soul. So the soul is the container of your mind, your emotions, and your will. So your emotions are your subconscious mind. Your will is your ability to make decisions. That's your thinking mind. And these two are contained in this thing called the mind, which is essentially your soul. And so mind is translated suke in the Greek, from where we get psychology or psychosis. See those terms, psych. So that psych, which has different levels, has the superego and the ego. And all these are managed and contained within the thing we call a personality, within the structure or construct we call a personality. And these personalities will be affected as they grow. Because one of the things I always teach and tell you guys is that when you are a child, in your childhood stage, you have no RAS. Now, I don't want to go into that, but just know that you have in your mind what is called the reticular activating system. It is a very powerful filter, personal assistant that determines what is important for you. It's the one that determines what's important between what's going on in your thinking mind and what's going on in your subconscious mind. And it makes sure that it keeps what you don't need to know to itself and the subconscious mind, and only gives you what you need to know. But it learns what you need to know from experiences in the past, and then formulates a filter. It formulates assumptions. It formulates beliefs. It formulates thought patterns. So all these are tied in this system called the reticular activating system. There's an actual it's actually located at the back of the stem of the brain and the spinal cord, and it's a very, very powerful tool that helps to manage all the information we receive. Now, that RAS doesn't exist in the strict sense of the word when somebody is a child. It doesn't function. It exists, yes, but it doesn't function. So between the age of 3 and 10, there is completely no filters in the mind and heart of a child. No filters whatsoever. There's no difference between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind of the child. In fact, remember, the prefrontal cortex, which is the house of the conscious mind, is completely underdeveloped at that age. It's just not developed. So even the way the brain waves work at that age, you are in what we call a susceptible state of mind, or a childlike state of mind. A childlike state of mind believes and absorbs everything wholesale. So children have no mental filters to determine this is not real, this is real, this is good, this is bad. They don't have those filters. So when they undergo trauma or any kind of terrible event in their childhood, all that stuff goes straight into the subconscious mind and is deposited in a deep mental repository. And that's why then later these things become traumatizing and they resurface later to cause a lot of pain and challenges for the adult child. So sometimes because the events are so bad, the mind will block them. But it doesn't mean blocking doesn't mean they don't exist. They just exist at a deep subterranean level in the mind. And when triggers come, when events come in life which line up with what happened, then these will trigger visceral, completely inexplicable behavior. So when we talk about behavior, that's where it comes from. Behavior has a root, and the root is whatever experiences and modeling an individual went through, mainly in childhood, but even in adolescence, teenage, into adulthood as well. Because remember, even when you're an adult, if you go through things that are deeply discomforting, deeply, negative, they will certainly reinforce an already bad situation. And what that does in turn, my friends, it leads to a situation where individuals are no longer able to appreciate or even take in anything going on. Then they go back into defense mode. There is a terminology we use in treating not just trauma, but trying to get people to get back into what you call healthy relationship bonding. There's something we talk about called implicit memories. These implicit memories are created every time a traumatizing event occurs, even in adulthood. This is why you can be a couple, and when you're courting, it's all happy, everybody's happy. And when you get married, all the butterflies are gone, and then you start having these really bad events that are happening, and you don't know how to reconcile them. So what those do, they begin to form a level of defense in the individual where you're defending yourself against being hurt further, and that creates templates. We call these feedback loop templates, which are based on survival. So the behavior, so when you see that behavior, you automatically go into survival mode and self-preservation mode. These will not help a relationship and its dynamics. It actually worsens the relationship. So you realize that a lot of people are dealing with a lot of stuff. And so when we did our 5-day webinar, we took people through all the cycles. It was very eye-opening. And today what I want to do is focus on what we do after the webinar. Those of you that followed the webinar, if you haven't followed it, we are going to be posting links later on today for you to be able to purchase. You can get individual webinars. There were 5. One was free, so that one still stands free. The first day is free. So if you haven't watched it, you can still go and watch the first day. Now the second, third, fourth, and fifth day, you pay for those. So the total is 1,500 or 350 per session. So just pick which session you want. If you want to watch one, I would deeply not recommend that. I would say look for the 1.5, or if it's a budget pay as you go thing, fine. Then you pay a 350, watch the next one. When you have a bit of money again, pay the 350, watch the next one. Now what happens is when you're done with all the 5, we will then take you into, you choose. This is up to you now. The reason I created that, I've already explained repeatedly, was so that I could give room to people who may have not had the money or financial issues, or to pay me the 1.5 per session, which I do, because those first 5 sessions are literally me lecturing an individual on a one-on-one basis. But some people may not have that 7,500 to pay there and then. So what I did is I created a platform where you can just go access the stuff and pay just a 1.5, and it covers all the 5 sessions, 10 hours, very rich stuff. Take it from me. Everybody who attended was blown away. I'm not exaggerating. You'll be soon seeing testimonials to that effect. So what you do when you have done the 5, then if you are one of those that says, look, I need the therapy. I need to go through this therapy. I'm dealing with, trauma-based issues. I have challenges. I went through an ugly divorce, or I'm having problems in my marriage, or there are issues that happen in my life-threatening. I went through an accident or something like that, and I've got this irrational fear or whatever. So if you're having one of those, then we can definitely come in. You can come in. Each session is 1.5. I recommend minimum 5. I don't even take anything less than 5. Just do the 5 so that it makes life easier for you. You can pay the first 3 or the first 2 and then pay the other 3 later. It really doesn't matter. But here's now a narration for the next 10 minutes or so on exactly what the therapy deals with, like the stages we deal with and what those stages involve. So in stage 1, we obviously begin with some kind of rapport to understand. Now, anybody who books the 5 sessions at once, you pay the 1.5, you will be entitled to 1 session with me, complimentary. So 1 complimentary session. So you don't have to pay for that first complimentary session because it's given to you as part of the system. The whole idea in that session is to get to know your story. What is your story? What is going on? We really need a full session just on that alone. So there are methodologies I use to make that possible. Some people might say, look, we want to do this as a couple. Again, I'll still need to do you at individual levels first before we do the couple together, always. But in that first session, we could do together just to kind of acclimatize ourselves and familiarize ourselves with the challenges that are on the ground. But either way, that first session is about knowing you and getting to understand what the dynamics of your situation are. So that comes complimentary for those who pay the 1,500 because it will come as part of that package. If you do the individual ones, you don't get that. So you only get it if you do the whole 1.5. So once we've done that, then we get into the 5 sessions. So the first of the 5 sessions is literally to identify limiting beliefs and identify negative trauma. So we look for that. So I'm skilled and trained in asking the right questions and getting to delve deep into what's going on with you. So that really, really helps, because what that does is it helps individuals to come to a full reconciliation of what the negative trauma is. You'll be surprised. Some of these traumas have been suppressed for good reason. But the problem is, just because they are suppressed doesn't mean they don't have an effect on your behavior. They still do. Why? Because when you went through that trauma, your mind went into what we call survival mode. And in survival mode, you're dealing with a threat and you're finding a way to survive the threat. So the thing you do is obviously create defense mechanisms to deal with the threat. And those defense mechanisms remain in place even after the threat is no longer there. And that's what is happening to a lot of people. That's what's messing up a lot of individuals, because when those threats continue, they actually exhibit, because you see, when a threat comes, the mind will react to the threat and it will put up its defense mechanisms to defy the threat. And that defense mechanism is what later becomes a not so good behavior, which is exhibited. That behavior is literally just self-defense against what's going on. So in the first session, we try to identify all those and clearly, and that's not just the first and second, and clearly define them in actual words. One of the most amazing things about the mind is that the mind, especially the subconscious mind, it doesn't communicate with words. So the gift of language, dexterity, concepts, ideas, that comes from the thinking brain. That comes from our prefrontal cortex. That's the one that's got all these abilities to do all these things. But the subconscious mind, or the limbic system, deals with more emotional based and what we call archetypal or typology or symbology, archetypes and shadows. It uses general general emotions and themes and events, and uses those to express what it's feeling, but it doesn't speak, it doesn't have words. So it does it through emotion. So when we go into these sessions, we have to take the emotions and embody them into words. And when we embody them into words and phrases, you'll be amazed that many times you go, yes, I believe that. I actually subscribe to that. Why? Because it now comes to tie in with previous hurt, pain, trauma, or whatever. So we have to create these phrases that become frames. For example, let me give you a very good example of a bad frame, and this is the most common one. So it comes in 2 folds, but it can be in any area. It can be in business, but I want to use relationship because this will hit home. There are people who go out there with the beliefs, these beliefs. They may not have put them in words, but they are the beliefs. They believe, men would say, all women are, I'll use a decent word, prostitutes. All men are dogs. Now that is a very powerful frame, which once you believe that, it is internalized, and everything you do when exposed to a man or a woman will subliminally communicate that message. And you wonder why the relationships don't work. It's because you are already self-sabotaging, because deep in your subconscious, you believe this. Another good example, money is evil. Money is evil. This is a powerful frame, and a lot of people have held on to that. All rich people are Satanists. They get involved in rituals and to get money. Now, I will tell you that that's a massive lie. Yes, there's a percentage involved in that, but which area do you know where there aren't people doing evil and wicked things? Every area there are people, even in church, for crying out loud, people are doing evil things whilst masquerading and hiding in church. So, but that doesn't mean it's generally true, because it isn't. There are lots and lots of decent, hardworking people who've gone on to become very wealthy, and they were not involved in rituals and witchcraft. And also, money is not evil, because if money was evil, why the hell are you working for it? Why are you going every day working and trying to get salaries to go and pay? Why are you working for the money if it's evil? So you see, but then the problem is the subconscious mind is not the thinking mind, and it works together with the reticular activation system, the RAS, and they hold on to that view. And once that view is held in your mind, subconscious mind, it doesn't matter what your thinking brain says, it doesn't listen. The subconscious and the RAS will not even hear what you're saying. That's why you can be parroting all these positive words and still seeing tons of poverty and pain and hurt in your life. I'm healed, but you're seeing all sorts of diseases. I'm in a loving relationship, but there's chaos in the relationship. Why is that so? Answer: because the RAS and the subconscious mind have got a different programming, and that is what works. We've already demonstrated many times in our sessions that the subconscious mind runs 95 to 97% of your waking life. So let me tell you, my friend, it doesn't matter. You can be standing in front of the most powerful anointed bishop, and they can make you swim in the anointing oil. It's not going to change your strong man in the mind. And the strong man, my friend, is actually the reticular activating system with the subconscious mind. That's the strong man. The Bible says, if you want to get hold of a house, first bind the strong man. So who's the strong man? Your subconscious mind. And so our process in this therapy, what we begin to do is identify, well, of course you get to know what the strong man is, but identify the codes by which the strong man operates. What are the codes? What are the instructions? What are the rules that the strong man is using to run your life? And what you discover is it's all the bad programming from the past, which was never dealt with. So once these are fully identified, we begin a very profound process called reframing. Now, reframing is a literal process. It's a technique we use. So it's not just, I can't explain it, you have to see me do it. So we take you into a state in your mind where we bring into full view all these frames and the power they have over you. So we put them out there so that you recognize them fully. And we put words on them. We put all manner of things around them so that you see them for what they are. Now, once you've done that, then we do a reframe. So a reframe is literally looking, taking the same situation and turning it on its head and bringing out the positive side of it. So for every one of these frames, we do the opposite. And that, by the way, even the frames, which are mainly phrases, we boil them down to individual words, because words have power. And when you realize that you may not say it, you may not vocalize it in words, but it's in your mind. And in your mind, it is what you think about. It's what you see when you sleep and dream and wake up. It is what you feel. It is what you are actually experiencing. So So people can say all these positive words out there, but internally, this is what you're experiencing. Money is evil, money is evil, money is evil, money is evil, money is evil. And that's why you can't handle money. When it comes around you, it just gets messed up. You can't invest it, you can't attract it, and most definitely you can't keep it because you keep thinking money is evil, money is evil, money is evil, money is evil. So you need to have that sorted out. And that, my friend, is coming from deep within your subconscious mind as a result of the impact of your environment. Now, once we do this reframe, then we create something called an anchor. Now, I've always told people that a lot of people confuse happiness with pleasure. So you hear people telling, you ask them, so what would you want to do when you retire? Oh, I just want to be able to, go off to a beautiful island like Bora Bora and, sit there and sip on my pina coladas and just really take in the view and just enjoy life. Okay, good. So, but you know what happens when you actually have that opportunity to go get the pina colada and then you're in that situation for 1 year? It becomes absolutely boring. You even begin to despise it. It's like the people say, if I just buy a Hilux, man, I'll have arrived. And the day you buy the Hilux, you'll be so happy. But that happiness will only last for about a year. Second year, you'll even be despising the Hilux. Man, if I only got a Range Rover. It's the same story. If I only got to be paid 10 pin. Man, if I only could get to 50,000 kwacha. If I get paid 100, man, I'll have arrived. If I build my house, if I get married, if I do this, if I have a child, if I do this. There's so many things we attach to happiness, but they are not happiness. They are events. And events generate, dopamine, endorphins, and to some extent oxytocin. But events are events. And they only last for that period. And once you've been exposed to that event and the subsequent item or object, that the novelty goes. And after 6 months or 1 year, it's like, what was I excited about? There's nothing to be excited about. Exactly, because it's an event. Happiness, hear me well, happiness is a state of mind. Totally different thing. So happiness has nothing to do with external factors, even though external factors can contribute to happiness. But once you start learning how to be transcendent, once you start learning about frames and reframing, you will realize that you actually have something called the internal locus of control. You can drive yourself towards being internally driven, self-validated, self-approved, self-confident, self-esteemed. See, all these things are internal. No wonder Jesus said, if you're willing to accept it, the kingdom of God is within you. No wonder the Bible says, to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all you can ask or even imagine, according to the power at work within you. So and every person that Jesus healed, when they were getting healed, Jesus said, your faith has made you well. So it's something internal. If internally you don't buy into this, it doesn't matter what comes externally, it's not going to do the job. And that's why happiness is a state of mind. You can have chaos around your life, but if inside you have happiness, then you're truly at home. One of my favorite scriptures, and I teach this a lot in my therapy, be anxious for nothing, but by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, the attitude of gratitude, right? With thanksgiving, let your request be known unto God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, so meaning it's nothing to do with what's around you, shall guard your heart and minds in Christ Jesus. So meaning it is a state of mind. No wonder the Bible. So how is this achieved? The Bible further down the verses says, whatever things are noble, whatever things are good, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of a good report, if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these always. So meaning, keep your mind, stay your mind on these things. So internally, carry your bubble of happiness. And that's what we try as much as possible to do in the reframe process and the anchoring, because we will anchor you to that state. So we teach you how to get into that state. And once you learn how to get into that state, not only are you no longer temperamental, meaning driven by events around you, happy, sad, depending on what's going on around you. No, now you are in a constant state of self-assurance, a constant state of true joy. It is here in the mind. And you can create that so that regardless of the storms that life throws you, Jesus said, peace I give you, not as the world gives, but I give you peace. So that peace, that's the one that God will cause to happen. Now we teach you how to achieve a level of peace. And it's profound. I've seen what it's done for people when I teach them how to do this. It changes completely their behavior. I have to wrap up. And then when we've done the anchoring, then once we got you anchored well, then we do what we call a future pacing. And future pacing is nothing but vision casting in psychological terms. We recast a new vision of what you want to see. Because what happens is when you go through all this turmoil, neglect, abandonment, trauma, and all these things, what tends to happen is you get into a melancholic state. You get into a state of depression because everything looks bleak. You start seeing the future in a dark way. And you know, in negative thought patterns, one of the negative thought patterns is something we call jumping to conclusions. So you project your feelings into the situations, you mind read, and of course, because your whole thinking is distorted, everybody is against you. And worst of all, you fortune tell. And the fortune telling is definitely, this is all going to end up bad. Everything's going to go wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing will work out. Yada, yada, yada. And now you're telling that to your subconscious mind. And of course, your mind is a very powerful tool. It goes to look for all the negatives. And that's all you see. Bleak, doom, and death. But you know, we can completely do a flip on that in the mind and get you to start to see the silver lining. Even if the situation is negative, the silver lining. What is the good that you can see? And once that's done properly, my friend, we really get you on the road to true recovery. I can tell you, even if you have a really bad situation, like a spouse that's cheating on you, a child out of wedlock, I'm giving you extremes, and the situation where maybe the child needs to come and start living with you guys. These are some of the really hard things, and you need to make some very solid and sober decisions. And if you decide you're among those who say, you know what, I'm gonna save my marriage, I'll deal with these storms, I teach you the techniques that put you in a beautiful state of mind where you're no longer, because there are people who say, no, let the child come, but you treat that child like, you know, the famous and sad stepmother stories. No. There's a way that you can actually learn to love that child and forgive your husband or wife, no, it's husbands, completely, and move to a whole new level. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. Some others choose to exit. That's fine. I'll still teach you how to exit and be at peace as you do your exiting. Not you exit and you are so broken, or you accept, but you're so broken, you're a total wreck. No, there's a way that can be managed. And that's what the therapy does. So I thought I should just give you a bit of highlights on how our therapy works and what is involved. And if you are interested, obviously you need to just get in touch and we'll give you far more details on how the therapy works. But I already told you it's at about 1.5 per session. You get about 5 sessions, 7.5. And then some couples want to do an alignment because now, you know, they've gone through these things, they've understood what's going on. Now they kind of want to align expectations. So we do that very powerful exercise. I always tell people that this is where the demons manifest in what we call the expectations alignment. It's a powerful exercise, and when it's done, everything comes to the surface. Every hidden thing comes to the surface and must be dealt with. So anyway, thank you guys for being part of our call. Tomorrow, you know, Dr. Sunshine is going to be here doing her thing. And for you who are interested in what I've just presented today, be on the lookout. Later on today, I will be sharing links to the 5 sessions where you can pay, and then also how you can, you know, access the 5, and those of you interested in the therapy, how you can get the therapy started. Alrighty, so have a great day and catch you tomorrow when you join Dr. Sunshine.